that it's not going very well with my internet connection here, but I think in that case we are all set to go. You ready to share?
All right, we are there.
Perfect. All right, Sarah, are you able to share your screen?
Oh, I thought I have it. Can you folks not see my screen? We can see it.
Oh, good. Great, okay. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I would like to introduce everyone today. We're going to be talking about permission sets with Sarah. Very excited, Sarah, to have you here. I'm going to sit back and learn a lot from you. So by way of introduction, everyone, so let me introduce myself. I'm Carrie Marcevich, and I'm from Penn State University. And I am the Enterprise CRM Strategy and Architecture Director. Role here today is the facilitation and helping Sarah out. So whatever you need, put it in the chat, ask questions in Q&A, happy to help. And let's introduce Sarah now. So Sarah is currently the Customer Relationship Management System Project and Training Specialist for the recruitment instance of Salesforce at Western Michigan University. So she's the lead trainer and list over 700 end users, and what you do on a daily basis, assisting units with development of recruitment strategy, technology alignment, and prospective student experiences, and skill building sessions to enhance user adoption, and managing other projects, right? That's the projects and duties as assigned, whatever it needs. And before that, you were one of many from university admissions and enrollment management, right? So undergrad recruitment strategies. Familiar
Absolutely.
place for lots of folks. Very excited from you. So Sarah, please go ahead, take it.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all virtually and speak with you today. So again, we are going to cover strategic permission set strategies, and we've titled this one Size Does Not Fit All, because of what we've learned over the last 7 to 8 years of implementation. So I'm thrilled to be with you today. Again, my name is Sarah Cheatham, and I do have that background in university admissions. I spent about 10 years recruiting, yielding students of all levels, and so I'm thrilled to bring my experiences to the tech side of the house. Today, I'm going to cover quite a few things, but I will have my chat open too, so we can try to discuss and present at the same time. We'll see if I can handle both. But we're going to first talk about our institutional background with Salesforce. I'm going to highlight a little bit of our growing pains with where we are today. But then we're going to cover all things permission sets. I'll give you a glimpse into the chaos coordinating that has been my internet browser with 100 tabs open in my brain for the last year. We'll take a look at our roadmap, and I'll take time to answer some questions at the very end, hoping we have time. So before we jump in and get started, I just have a caution to everyone that this presentation is truly through the eyes of my own personal view as a project specialist, a trainer, a functional business analyst, depending all other duties as assigned, and I joined our tech team in October of 2022. So I recognize that we have so many people, 77 already in this session. You probably have a lot more experience than I do. So if you have other things, I want to hear from you, but I also want to connect and collaborate after this. So let's talk a little bit about our background with Salesforce. Like I mentioned, I started with our enrollment management team in admissions, recruiting specifically those first-year undergraduate students, those high school freshmen. Back in 2017, we realized that we had a big issue on our campus. There was no centralized system that all of our recruiters in units could use, no centralized CRM. And actually, there were quite a few different organizations across campus being used. I think at one time, there was a count of about 30 different CRM experiences across our university's campus. So we were charged in 2017 with finding one centralized tool, and we went from purchase to go live in 6 months. You might be like freaking out when I hear that. Honestly, I don't recommend it for anyone. It was really a wild ride, but the team and our enrollment management department did it. In that entire experience, we had a ton of opportunity to connect across campus, but we were not only implementing an enterprise-wide system, but also trying to rein in 30 or so different units who were actually doing things very differently. And so we purchased Salesforce because everyone bought into this idea of customization. But what happened is we didn't actually do the business analytics side of this as well as maybe we should have. So what happened is that we had the Oprah 12 days of giveaways experience implementing where everyone got a custom field, everyone got a profile, and then we didn't know who really needed it. So everybody gets everything. You get a field, and you get a profile. Throughout the last 8 years, requests were coming in much faster than we could handle. So that was the best way we knew how to handle things. Okay, you wanted an ethnicity field. Great, here you go. But what ended up happening is that we have repeat, almost cloned profiles and permission sets that really aren't unique in any way. So when I joined our team, I, from my experience, was part of the team who was just given Salesforce and said, make it work for your team. And so I did a lot of hands-on learning myself, a lot of war rooming with our colleagues of how do we make this happen, and a lot of, are you sure we're ready to send that email? Does that really what it say it does? Everybody cross your fingers when we say go. So if you can relate, thank you for coming on this ride with me. So let's talk a little bit about what permission sets are in case you're not familiar and really where we are right now. So permission sets from Salesforce Help, good old trusty Salesforce Help, it's really just a collection of settings and permissions that are giving users access to tools and functions. Now, you might be thinking, Sarah, I do this in profiles. It's awesome. It's organized. I know what's up. In case you missed it, and I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but those controlling permissions are actually going to be phased out starting in 2026. So this idea of transitioning to permission sets is in everybody's future. So users can only have one profile, but they can have multiple permission sets. Permission sets can also be assigned to various types of users, regardless of their profile. So we are a liaison school, and so we also have community licenses for our company users, as well as full licenses. So we run the gamut as far as what our users look like and what they're actually using. One of my favorite pieces is you can actually turn on and off permissions based on time. So if you only want a user to have a specific set of permissions for a month, you can do that with permission sets. So let's take a glimpse into what those future of permission sets and profiles look like. Everything on the left side of your screen is what's going to be remaining on profile. And everything on the right side of your screen is everything that will be navigating strictly to permission sets. So those one-to-one relationships, your IP ranges, those default record types are going to stay on profile. Now, my understanding is that page assignments are not rolling over because the investment is going to be in App Builder and dynamic forms. So that's where we're going to be staying here. When you talk about permission sets, though, everything as far as those object permissions, those create, edit, update, and delete features for objects, all of those are going to be housed in permissions. So you have a lot of maybe migration to work on over the next 2 years, right? Oh my gosh, we're at the end of 2023 already. There are a few tools out there that are assisting in this transition. And so I found some buttons that help do quick field level security tests that you can use based on existing profiles. You could also use the user access and permissions assistant. And I'm sure that other tools and apps are being developed and will be released regularly. But in full transparency, those options weren't necessarily the best option for our team, just because we had very little organization to start with, and we need to do some cleanup. So if anything over the last 5 minutes has made you feel any of these feelings, I want to tell you that I stand with you. I feel you. I hear you. I also support you. And I welcome you to the chaos coordinating, the goat rodeo, if you will, that has been going through my brain the last 12 months. It's a lot. Most days I'm the why though person. My team, shout out to those Broncos here on the line too, will see me as the top right. I got a lot of stuff going on, or they've seen me as Kim crying in my office. But I understand, and we're all going to get through it together. So let's talk a little bit about our instance at Western Michigan. We have 3 instances of Salesforce at Western, and I specifically cover the enrollment management CRM, or the recruitment portion. So we work with students all the way through that exploratory phase to their first term of enrollment. Now let's talk about this chaos coordinating. I mentioned earlier, this was the biggest project I saw coming into my role last October. We have 37, or at the start of this project, we had 37 contact page layouts and 81 non-managed profiles. Now you might be looking at this saying, girl, you are out of your mind. I have thousands, I have hundreds. What are you talking about? I understand that. But when you look at our lens of none of these are truly different, it was a lot of copy and paste and cloning. It's a lot to clean up in one month time. My goal is to really reduce both of these just to a handful of layouts. Maybe there's 2 or 3 contact layouts based on the student level, so graduate versus undergrad, or the role that those users are playing in one of our 11 personas. In those non-managed profiles, I also hope to reduce those down to about 11. These are fingers crossed, wishful thinking, but we're getting pretty close here so far. One of the biggest pieces of advice I will ever give anyone who's maybe sitting in these shoes, hanging out in this boat with me, it is time to just unpack all of the junk and get rid of anything that no longer serves you or your organization. I want to be very clear that even if we did our implementation perfectly the first time around when it came to profiles and permissions, we're never fully done implementing. So we would have always circled back or needed to circle back and do a lot of that cleanup and maintenance. It might look like the closet on the right side of your screen right now. Or if you're in the Midwest, I'm sure you have a drunk drawer, right? Yes, Carrie said, Marie Kondo, goodbye to your service. Thank you for your service and goodbye. Yes, Kondo effective, whatever you need to do to make this work for you. What we did first is go through old fields. There were fields that were on our layouts and our roles that hadn't been populated since 2017. Bye-bye, let's get rid of them. Old versions of layouts, we had about 10 that were just there, but not assigned to anything. No profile, no permission set. Why were they there? That was the why though question. And there's a lot of this that we keep doing. We're not alone in a lot of this process. I know a lot of folks across the country who, when we talk about implementing something new or revising something, we take whatever we had and just shove it into the nice, pretty box. And so what we've really embraced in our office with our enrollment management technology team is truly unpacking that old box. Do those processes truly serve us? Do those roles truly serve us? And how can we reorganize everything in the nice new shiny box that can make it run efficiently? If I'm going through a closet, there's stuff in the back of the closet that has holes I'm never going to fit into again. Get rid of them, donate them, they got to go, and neatly tidy up that closet to make sure you're ready for whatever's next. So I'm going to walk you through or guide you through just the 4 steps we've gone through and the questions we've been considering as we are working towards targeting permission sets with the least amount of privilege. Because like anything technology related, security should also be a focus of your conversations. So let's talk about the who. We spent a lot of that time in cleanup trying to understand who we were even serving. We had 734 active users since I last checked 4 days ago. So that's a huge chunk of our community. All of these folks recruit, they work with incoming students, or they perhaps register them for their upcoming semesters. It is a campus-wide effort to bring in our class of students. I sat down, and I wish I still had it up behind me, but I had pages of sticky notes printouts. I was honestly shuffling things from one ear to another. Who are our people? What do they do? And what do they actually need in our system? We also encourage you, or I encourage you, to also consider the position, not the person. Because so often I've heard from colleagues that they trust that one person, or they're really good. Sarah's really good, she'll be fine. But if that person leaves, what happens? Have you constructed permission sets around one individual? Or are you constructing roles for a position that can help move the university forward or your organization forward in a way that's cohesive? Also think about the what. What should each of those personas, groups, roles, what have you, be able to view, edit, or create? This was that Oprah 12 days of giveaways type thing. Everybody can see things. And at one point, we all looked at each other, end users and administrators alike, and said, "Ooh, how did that happen?" Because everybody was getting everything at one time. Ask yourself, what is necessary for the role versus what's just nice to see? You want to make sure that you're limiting access where you can, and then have a protocol on the back end for what happens when new objects or fields are created. Also think about the when. So are there portions of the year where specific permissions are necessary? In our organization right now, right through early action and our deadlines for first year students, there's a ton of transcripts and applications that are coming through, and our departments need to review as well. So maybe those are permission sets that we've created that allow those permissions to lift or open certain times of year for our readers. Or maybe you have a temporary reader who needs to come through. Or perhaps you need to actually upload or give extra access to advisors during peak registration periods. By using permission sets, you can actually tailor on and off when you assign a permission set to a role. Also, consider when the last time your processes were evaluated. Even if it was done perfectly again, our instance has been in use for 8 years, which is insane to think about. A whole 8 years. And one of my favorites is just to utilize the toddler model. So we have always asking why, right? Just like, what do you mean? Why? Where's it going? And so why do we do that? Why do we have this object? Why do we have this field? Why are certain objects or fields restricted? And why are the business's process set up that way? Does anybody, I want to see in the chat too, raise your hand, laugh, I don't know, do something. Does anybody have children relate to that part? Just ask why. And if you can answer it, fantastic. Yes, we got some thumbs ups. One of my, what we found is by implementing a system, oh my, a while ago, now it's all sarcasm. Actually, absolutely. So what we're thinking now, or what we see now, is that users, by implementing an enterprise-wide system, we're able to ask those questions of why things are done a certain way. Or have you always been able to see that? Have you always been able to do that? And honestly, it's actually uncovering or shedding light upon some other institutional processes that maybe could also use some cleanup or some modification to know. Yes, asking the why and then ask the how. That's exactly right. Thanks for shouting that out, Kathy. You want to know why you need them or what you need, understand the purpose, and then get those people involved who actually know what they're talking about, the how. How does it get done? How does that work? I love those. All of these steps, the who, the what, the when, we can add a how, is all leading us up to those permission sets with least amount of privilege. And this is going to help really secure your org even further than it's already secured right now. And you can schedule permission set, specific permission set items for specific times in the cycle. One of my favorite aspects that I've really gone through is how can we create permission set groups to really standardize permissions by those personas. So if I have 6 personas out of my 11 who need access to application data, I can create one permission set of applications that have the same criteria attached to them, edit, read, decision, and then assign them to 6 different permission set groups. And then those groups are assigned to those users. That is thank you, Carrie. I love that too. It's one of the best things that's happened for our organization. And because when things are changing all the time, users are coming on, roles within our departments are changing all the time. People are good old higher ed, maybe taking on more roles in their areas than maybe they're used to, or they're waiting to temporarily fill a position. You can temporarily assign a different permission set to that person without losing the idea of their original profile. And that's key. I also encourage everyone to really find your champions. Who are they? Where are they? Don't go at it alone. If you have a niche user in each one of those persona groups that you have, bring them along for the ride. Have them be your test person, your guinea pig, if you will. Does this work? Does this not work? Help them brainstorm. I would not be where I am at all without the team in our office. They listen to me. They see my mapping out. They see the fires lit between my ears. They also see me crying. They also see me like super excited when we finally figured out a permission set or a profile that would really need to be the best use of our time for our users and to make that end user experience as best as possible. And finally, communicate, communicate, communicate. If there's one thing I've learned within my role in the technology side of the house is that communication can never be too short. You could always communicate more. We made a commitment to our end users that as we develop permission sets and transition folks into their roles or to their new assignments, that we're going to do so in the least disruptive way as possible. Now, there has been some shakeups, a little, even though we send emails, we have groups, we tag people, everything, there's still some of those ideas that come through of, what do you mean? But if we can communicate this and regularly communicate, it has eased a lot of those frustrations and challenges that perhaps you could get from end users. And when there's 730 of them and one of me, it makes my life a lot easier to help mediate some of those high stress levels. Let's talk about where we are. So this entire enrollment management CRM permission set cleanup time has truly been the better half of about 2 years. If this was the only project in the queue, if I had more people doing this, we could probably realistically clean this up within 6 months. But that just wasn't realistic. So when I joined our team on October 3rd, the first thing we did was really start with that onboarding and discovery. I needed to figure out what was going on, who are my key partners, but also what are our users actually doing? I also started with that initial page cleanup and those profile cleanups. If we had no users assigned or those layouts weren't assigned to anything, it had to go, right? Marie Kondo. Absolutely. And I'll get to that question. It's a great question, Nicole. So we talked about those user competencies by persona and doing some initial group profile cleanup. And then we have a great question in the chat asking, what do you suggest for naming conventions for permission sets? Profiles were position oriented, absolutely, and easy to label. What are the thoughts on permission sets and groups? That's a great question. So what we found really useful was using either, depending on what we're talking about as far as the role itself, but saying create or view only, and then adding the object or overall role. So edit access for applications and reviews. That was one. Edit apps reviews. View applications reviews. 2 different permission sets. And then when it came to the permission set groups, that's where we're assigning by that persona. So my editing for application views will be assigned to the permission set group for international admissions, our graduate college, as well as our undergraduate domestic admissions office. So I have one permission set for 3 different permission set groups. Whew. Does that help answer that question? Other users I've seen just have access, right? So we have a couple objects that are custom. They only wanted very specific coaches to see. And those are strict down. So my permission set for that role is strictly object access. And everybody knows, we've used the description that no one else needs it. There's a specific reason and a rhyme for that, protection wise. Nobody else needs access to it unless you're that specific user. That's a great question. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Yes. All right. And then when we continue to work through our profile right now, we are in the yellow. So anything in green on that screen is something that we've already gone through, and we've gone through multiple iterations of. We continue to reiterate. And right now we are in the process of permission set reconstruction and profile reconstruction. This is what's taking the longest to make sure we're not missing any pieces here and there. We noticed that perhaps users weren't necessarily in the right profile because they've changed roles across the university. And so if we were to strip some of those permissions, there would be a little bit more concern. But I have to find those people first before just ripping that rug out and saying, oh, good luck, better luck next time. The other area, and what we're hoping to get to by April, is to actually make that formal shift to all of those new permission sets and those redesigned, reconstructed profiles. If I can do that and have that launched by the beginning of next academic year, I will do the happiest of dances and probably come back and give you the update of how amazing and glowing this has all been. Until then, I'm here to share that we are strictly in the middle of where we are. We are wearing a superhero cape because we're trying to go as fast as we can. But when you have a team of 4, we have to use what we have and continue to what we work with. And with that, I do want to wrap up. I didn't go the full 40, but I want to make sure we open up for some Q&A. I'm loving the time to connect with everybody. So I see we have a couple questions in there. What's going on? Talk to me, Carrie.
Sarah, so first question is, what about tab visibility settings for standard objects? And that's currently on profiles. So I think this goes back to your what's in profiles and what's in permission sets.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would have to go back in and dig that right away. A lot of what I remember is just clicking around. So let me click around and see if I can find it real quick. But if it's not there yet, that is what Salesforce is saying will be there. Will be there in 2026. So a lot of this is still in the works as well. So it might not be all of those pieces right away, but you can start by making those initial sets as you work through. And sorry, I have multiple tabs open today. So I'll keep going back and see if I can actually formally answer that accurately.
Yep. And if anybody else knows that, I mean, there are so many folks who are absolutely capable of answering this as well. If you want to pop it in the chat, let's help each other. And Sarah,
I'm new, folks.
Yeah. So we'll try and crowdsource that one while we ask you another one. So let me read the next one. Did you use the profile conversion tool at all, or did you start fresh by creating all your permission sets manually?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started by saying, let's convert those, right? Like, let's just do it. And quickly realized that, I'm just going to be honest, our profiles were ugly. They're real ugly. And they didn't make any sense. So at that point, we had to start fresh. And so I have started fresh and started moving folks into profiles that we were able to create as we went and assign different permission sets. So there are great tools out there. We're just not in a place to utilize them to their maximum efficiency.
Got it. All right. Next question. Well, you did mention size of your user base.
Yeah, that's also a great question too. So I'm happy to jump back in. Right now, we have about 734 active users. Now we are we do use TargetX Liaison and CAS. And so we do have quite a few company community users. And then we have 280 full Salesforce licenses. So we do have quite a few folks who are in there every day, right? And then quite a few who are in there as needed. And so it makes our day-to-day world, our case management fluctuate a little bit every day. It's something new every day. Great questions. Yes, there's a link we're referring to as we walk through the updates. Absolutely. That same link, thanks for sharing, Jamie, is also in this presentation. So you can link right to it as well.
Excellent. Yes, thank you.
Yes, and tabs are handled will be handled in permission sets, but it just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah. Are there other questions? There are a couple that have come into the Q&A. One question for you, Sarah. What is your biggest lesson learned?
Oh gosh, coming into an organization that had a lot of really passionate folks across our university. So we have most of our users are in 3 very different siloed admission offices, and a ton of users within our academic colleges is really trying to get everyone on the same page. So I spent a few months doing what I call the road show, going meet and greet to folks. Just, who are you? What do you do? How can I help you? That was one of our biggest challenges, to get everybody on the same page. When we implemented, it was supposed to go enterprise-wide, but again, we did that in 6 months. And so we left a lot of folks in the dark, for better or worse, and it was trying to rein those folks back in. And that was really my biggest challenge. And then understanding what they need to use in Salesforce, because they had the keys to the kingdom, and really understanding what do you really need versus what do you just really like to see. And those are some of those harder conversations.
That's the nice to have versus the, no, I really need it, and here's the business reason why.
That's exactly it. Yes, I know you can probably relate to that too.
Got it. Yeah. Jack asks an interesting question. Says, did you consider using just 2 profiles, a user and an admin, and then doing everything with permission sets and permission set groups?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
That might be something I continue to look at, because right now I do just have 2. All right. I like that, Jack. That's not a bad idea. We are looking, I would absolutely consider that. I was just trying to figure out a way to get from 81 down to a reasonable number, but 2 sounds fantastic.
2 does sound lovely, right? Smaller the better.
We also have quite a few users too who do have admin permissions, who maybe are more on our IR or tech side too. So I'd be curious to see how that would work out. Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. Yeah, might make life a lot easier.
If anyone's doing that, feel free to jump into the chat.
Shout it out. Let's crowdsource it. Talk about it.
Absolutely.
Because I want to talk about that too. I love that idea.
And so, Amanda, you have 3 sysadmins, 1 for full lessons and 1 for users platform licenses in the new org. Yep. And Jamie adds something to consider with paring down the profile count is Lightning app page assignments or home page assignments, as those stay on the profile in the future. That's a really good point. So if you want to customize, that's based still on the profile.
That's exactly it. Yeah, great point, Jamie. That's absolutely right.
Love that conversation. Thank you.
Yes. Default app assignment will stay on the yes, that's exactly right. Yep. So those defaults should stay on the profile level, as far as we know right now, right? That, pardon me, I'm an itchy nose.
Right.
That the spring update, that admin update is there too, and it's a really great resource. So if you have not clicked on it yet, go ahead and do it. Paring down, yes, our lightning assignments. That was, I think, a big challenge too that we got to is, we have some users who love the lightning assignments, because we do have some company users that they still are not in lightning, which I won't say very loud, but I know. So we do have to maintain those 2 right now. And at this point, I don't have a solution, but we're working towards one pretty quickly.
Great.
I'm excited for all these.
Well, I would offer kind of last call.
Oh, that's
Right.
a good question. Do you have any opinions on that one, Carrie? Everyone's experience with integration licenses?
We've used
Sure.
some, but we haven't juggled between the profiles and permission sets and all of that. But we have been using the integration licenses in a couple of different instances, so that they're no longer for everybody's. This is newer. Instead of using a user license you have to pay for, you can use an integration license, which is now free. It's system. So interested in others' experiences, we started to move those for some smaller integrations pretty successful.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sarah, I'm not sure if you use those as well.
I'm honestly not the best person to tap into that right now, but I'm happy
Gotcha.
to go back and
Getting there.
ask my team.
And Mario says, yep, few limitations. Right. Yep, that's right, John. The license.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine are definitely more end user specific. So to get our end users up to speed.
Yep, there are some idiosyncrasies. It takes a little working through with those integrations, but can be helpful for saving licenses, essentially. Save them for the users, right, Sarah?
That's exactly right. Save those for the users.
Okay, well, I think we are just about ready to wrap up. So, Sarah, do you want to take us to the ending slides here?
Yeah.
And let's talk about what comes next. So, yes, as Haley would say, more dreamy content. So what you'll want to do is go over to the sessions logo on the side. You can go to the expo, see our sponsors, and you can figure out which roundtable you're going to go to for collaboration. Anything else you want to do, we've got lots more content in store for you. And if we'll jump over to the agenda, Sarah, you can see what comes next. So we have a sponsor showcase and then several more sessions this afternoon and closing at the end of the day. So hope to see everyone in all our sessions. And until then, have a great time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for dreaming with us. Have a good one.